arms! To arms! They are here!
Do you know what? I have never even asked that question. I always just aim for, 200, and that's what I do. And that's enough. I don't even remember from last time. I just get as many as I can, possibly can. And what they don't take, they'll throw out. I just know I always have more than enough.
Okay. And then when you file for that, where do you who reviews it? So 86th district, folks, covers all of Union County and then a good portion of Marion County, including the city of Marion. So when the Board of Elections reviews the petitions with your signatures, are you able to file that in Union County or Marion, or how does that work when you're running for a state rep?
Last time I just filed it all in Union County down the street, and I had no trouble with that.
Okay. So maybe anywhere in the district you can.
It could be. I've never really asked that question because I'll tell you what, I have 200 plus, and so I just take it to Union County, and I've never had a problem. So,
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, anyway, February 4th is the deadline, and then the primary itself is scheduled for what, May 6th?
May 5th this year.
May 5th.
Yes.
May 5th. So it's fast approaching. And how are you finding the campaign trail right now, Wezlynn? Go ahead and give us
I think
campaign.
Yeah, well, the momentum it just feels unstoppable at this point. And, you know, I ran 2 years ago. You guys know that. I only threw my hat in the ring mid-January last time, and worked really, really hard for a solid 9 weeks, because remember, the primary was in March. It was, I believe it was March 19th was the election date. So it was a smaller window. This is a lot different. I started a lot sooner. After that primary, you know, it's very hard to beat an incumbent. I didn't expect that I would, but I walked away with only campaigning for about 3 months with a little over 40% district-wide. And from there, I never stopped working. You know, I stayed active. I stayed involved. Of course, I was still a township trustee at the time. That term just concluded in December 31st. But this time, you know, I started actively boots on the ground again, well in advance. And I never let my momentum die down, and I can feel it. It is a different feeling, and the momentum is there. The support is tremendous. And, you know, I feel very strongly we're going to take this. We're going to take this win for our district. And I'm very excited to be the elected person to represent, because I think I have the skills and the background and the life experience, the knocks to the head, frankly, also, that keep me grounded in what our district needs and in the kind of backbone that's required downtown.
Yeah, I think that it, by all accounts, I mean, you look and you see there's quite a few signs popping up around the district, and you look at your interaction that you get on social media, on Facebook. Are you doing all sites of social media? I'm kind of old school. I only really engage in Facebook. But when you're doing a campaign, do you have to do TikTok, and do you have to do?
I don't do that stuff. I don't, and I probably should. I think even though maybe technically birth year 1984, that makes me kind of a millennial, but I kind of identify more with those Gen Xers, because my first cell phone I had when I was 20 years old, right? I didn't grow up with a computer in the house with, you know, instant messaging. You know, I didn't even have AOL instant messaging growing up, and some of my friends who, you know, were lucky enough to have a computer in the house, they did. So I am not the most tech savvy when it comes to all these platforms and how to use them. My campaign is really rooted in, yeah, I use Facebook, but really more of a boots on the ground, face to face, being out in the community, engagement. That's really how I run my campaign when you don't see me on Facebook.
Well, there's been something that came up on Facebook. There was a little bit of some threats or something, Robert, if I recall. Maybe a little bit of extortion type activities by a certain member of the left wing podcast society in Marion. Robert, what do you recall about that incident? Because it involved Wezlynn Davis, and yeah, I'm kind of struggling to remember, even though it's.
You talking about Sean? Are you talking about that Sean guy?
That guy, that crazy guy. You know,
he's always popping his head around somewhere.
So he's struggling to get people on his show because he's been fully exposed for the Democrat hack job artist that he is. And Ms. Wezlynn there is well aware of his antics. Now, Wezlynn, you have been on his show before, right?
Oh, I will never turn a conversation down with anyone. And in fact, I kind of approach relationships with, you have my full attention, full engagement, and full trust until you give me a reason not to, right? And I swiftly learned that, you know, I had to pivot from engaging with someone who I do not believe is forthright in reporting and does not operate in a way that, you know, I would want to engage with when it comes to a media personality. So yeah, I will not be engaging with this person again.
Yeah, and then and then because I think he had like 4 guests that were no shows over a period of like a week and a half, as I understand it. So then he's sending you these messages, trying to get you to come on. You don't respond to it, and then he kind of implies, you know, a little bit of a threat to say, "Hey, I've got something that is going to impact your campaign, and I want to talk to you about it." Kind of like, talk to me, like I'm dangling this out here, like grab this carrot so I can get your attention and get you to agree to come on and talk about it. And then he says, well, if you don't, then I'm just going to run with it anyway. And then it turns out to be a huge nothing burger. And then when he's called out for it being a huge nothing burger, then what does he do? He tries to, you know, backtrack, play defense, and say, oh, well, look at this. Like, she took a loan out from her own personal account to fund her campaign in the amount of $250,000. Meanwhile, he ignores, and he referenced, he put the link from the Secretary of State site from your prior campaign in which you challenged the current incumbent, or the current representative for the A6 district, Tracy Richardson. And he didn't even say anything about the fact that, like, the GOP gave her in that race like $280,000. I mean, that's the bigger story. You know, if you're talking about big money in politics, like if you're taking big time donations from political action committees or big corporations or something like that, like, okay, that's a story, I guess, if it's a ton of money. But as I understand it, you took out a loan yourself to fund your campaign, right?
Yeah, well, you know, there's a reason great people don't run for office. And I would say he is one of these reasons why someone wouldn't want to run for office, because people take information and they try to manipulate it and present it in a way that is inaccurate. And, you know, you got to have thick skin to withstand the accusations and the character bashing that, you know, happens from folks like this. So my husband and I own multiple businesses together, and we've built them together. As you guys know, I came from under the poverty line. I did not go to college. I went to trade school. My husband came from middle class, even single mother his whole life for, you know, maybe 12 years old on, put himself through college, worked third shift. He and I together have built some businesses together, all in service industries. And it's taken us years and years to establish our businesses. We have 1,300 employees across the state of Ohio with the janitorial and commercial floor care. This is not residential. This is not multifamily residential. This is airports, hospitals, businesses like that, where we have janitorial and floor care. And we have an investment arm where we have saved money and we put it aside to buy businesses in service industries. And that is called J&J Capital Group, named after Jackson and Josie, our children. It's very important for me, being someone that came from under the poverty line, to build generational wealth for my children. And that is a mission that I am on for the families in our district, from all the way from the south end all the way through Marion. And Marion needs that leg up more than anyone, because the opportunity and the job opportunity is not where it needs to be today. I'm on a mission to make that happen. But that said, This is my hard-earned money that I've put aside, and I took money out of my own business and put it into my campaign because I want our constituency in the 86th district to know that I cannot be bought. If I have to fund my own campaign and buy my own signs with my own money, do my own Facebook boost with my own money, whatever the case may be, I am willing to use my own money and have my own skin in the game before I will ever ask anyone to give me a single dime. Now, mind you, last time I took $100,000 of my own money and put it into my campaign as a loan. Nobody wants to spend their own money. I hope that I gain enough support that people are willing. And you know, I did that last time. And every donation that I have in my former campaign finance is someone that knows me, because keep in mind, I built a statewide association that fought for small businesses. We at one point at our best, we had 8,000 members across the state. It was trade schools, licensed folks, independent contractors, small businesses. And these people know that I have a track record of delivering. So when I ran my campaign in the last primary, I picked up the phone call. I've never asked one person for one single dollar in my entire life. But when I ran for office and I put my own money in first, people knew I was serious. And when I called all these folks that know me from across the state of Ohio for pushing back from the outside, pushing back on government, they said, absolutely, we will support your campaign. And so I raised quite a bit of money in less than 10 weeks. I did not know I was capable of that. I surprised myself. And, you know, I spent a good chunk of my own money. I think at the end of that race, I was out $35,000 of my own money, because that's what it takes sometimes. And this go around, I thought, I'm leaving no room for any last minute shenanigans, because I was polling ahead nearly the entire race last time. And in the last week, about $250,000 in negative ads was spent against me, and it dropped me down to about 41%. I think I landed right above 40%. Well, I don't know what kind of I don't know what's out there that might, you know, try to hit me in the last few weeks of the election, but I will tell you something. I believe in our families and our seniors and the people of this district. And I was not prepared for over $500,000 being spent on negative ads on me. But this time I am prepared, and I'm willing to put my own money, put my money where my mouth is, to fight for our people, to ensure that we have a representative installed by the people who cannot be bought. I will never, never fold to special interest groups or lobbyists. I've spent 10 years fighting against that with a 100% track record when it comes to my state association that I built. And I will bring that same fight and that same strength to this seat. And I want our residents to know, if you donate to me in this campaign, please know I'm putting my money in there too. And I will never, never abuse their trust. It won't happen.
Well, yeah, and unless I'm reading those disclosures incorrectly, I mean, they break it down with like the annual, semi-annual, pre-primary, post-primary. Tracy Richardson in that campaign received over $360,000. And I mean, the largest contributor was the Ohio House Republican Alliance. Is that the one that financed the negative attack ads against you?
Yeah, that was the Republican caucus under the leadership of Speaker Jason Stevens, who was voted out of speakership. But he, at the time, controlled the Ohio House war chest, if you will. And that was used to, you know, defame me. And the way that the laws are written, and the way that the Supreme Court ruled, you know, they can say anything they want. You know, when you throw your name into the ring for public office, defamation does not, it's not relevant. You're an open book. And I was prepared for that. And so, you know, I know that I have to be prepared again. I don't know what could come my way, but I am more than equipped to deal with it if it happens again. And, you know, I've continued to fundraise. There's, you know, one of my best donors is out of Youngstown. He owns Ralph Del Cerrone Beauty Culture. It's a beauty school, frankly. It's barber, it's cosmetology, it's aesthetics and massage therapy. He owns 5 schools in 5 counties. And he is a great friend of mine. It's a family, a 3rd generation owned school, a trade school that is post-secondary, not in high school, but post, you know, high school. And I have fought for policy to preserve the right for trade schools to exist without, you know, they're not treated always as fairly as a university. You know, a university can take your money and say, here's a communications degree and it costs $100,000. Good luck with gainful employment. But then you go to a school like Ralph's, which is post-secondary outside of high school, and you say, you know, you pay $25,000 to go to this school, but there's so many restrictions and so much red tape over these trade schools that it almost makes it very hard for them to operate. The gainful employment that the Biden administration, the rules around what they had to report was so egregious, frankly. It didn't even make sense. It was like not a level playing field between university and trade schools. And that was for all clock hour programs, frankly. It was almost like it was a mission to put them out of business. Well, I fought for these schools statewide. I think at my height, I was representing 15 schools in 30 different counties across the state. And again, I have a 100% track record with the policy that they sent me down there to either kill or pass.
Is that why the Republican House caucus, you think, had an axe to grind with you? Or
no, I think the axe to grind was that Tracy at the time was the chosen representative that they wanted to keep installed for Jason Stevens. And if I won that seat, he figured he would not have my vote for speakership, and he didn't want that happening.
Well, you talk about defamation and a slander campaign, and Robert, you know all about that, man. You know, can you sympathize with Wezlynn here? You know, on how vicious some of these attacks get, and then you really can't do anything about it, like she said.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think Wezlynn, to her credit, she's handling it very graciously. You know, there came a point in time for me where you kind of had to fight back against the wolves a little aggressively. So my approach was a little bit differently as I got later into the game. I will say, though, former Mayor Scott Scherzer, he had ran for, Ohio Treasurer, had a campaign fund. And I think when he got done, he had about $30,000 left in there. And, you know, that became a big deal because he was using that same war chest for his local races. Not a word from Scott Spears, not a word from anybody in the Democrat Party. They were all okay with that. And so I think we've just become accustomed to, you know, from Scott Spears' station, that was sanctioned, by the way, we've come accustomed to just propaganda and lies. The hypocrisy is blatant. You know, it's okay for their side to do something, and then even though Wezlynn's not done anything wrong, they will try to take something, and then you know, they feel like they have an inch, they'll go a mile. You know, the classic saying. And so it's just unfortunate. But Wezlynn, you're doing really good. I like how you're handling it, and I think that's a credit to your character.
Well, I don't respond to threats. If someone wants to speak to me about something, they can say, hey, I've learned that you have a loan in here. You know, he called it income. It's a loan from my own personal business that is rooted in janitorial and floor care on a commercial level. I mean, and, you know, the cryptic, I have something on you, respond or else, kind of message that you put up on the screen. It is not something I engage with. I will talk to anybody who wants to, you know, have me answer. But he could very easily said, hey, Wezlynn, I've taken a look at your campaign finance. I'm really confused. Is this even legal? And I would have fully explained. But I will not be lured or, you know, be given some, like, come take the bait I just I don't function like that.
Yeah.
I'm ready to, I think I have made a name for myself for being very open, forward. There's not a question someone can ask me online that I won't answer. And I have a reputation for that, and I know it. So to say that I don't have character, I'm not being transparent. Hey, I'm the only candidate in this race that published a campaign finance report in 2025. The only one.
Yeah, that's what we
Mhm.
found. Yeah. And just so the viewers know, Wezlynn was watching that, and we started reaching out to her, asking her, what is he talking about? And she was very, very transparent with us, as always, and explained it to us. Explained it to us, and then we went and found the documents, and Cody published on Marion Watch, and we put together an article on Marion Watch, and then the Swamp Fox put out a more targeted article about Miss Richardson and the Republican primary race, the previous one. And we were around for Landon's fiasco for the first part of it anyway. And he lost his cover because we had to step away, but that was brutal. Yeah, it can be brutal.
And my dissociation with the Spears show really happened even before this, and it was rooted in, I don't want to speak to media that wants to inject conjecture and emotion and rumors into the conversation. And I watched a lot of disparaging conversations that were very much attacking characters around Ralph and Twyla and the councilmen, men and women that were there. It's hard enough to be a public servant and throw your hat in the ring and be under that microscope. I take my mentality is anybody who's willing to do that, I automatically assume their heart is in the right place and they have great intentions. No one wants to be under a microscope unless they have a heart for it and they're willing to take the heat. And you do got bad actors, that does happen. But when I watch a show,
they're called Democrats, aren't they?
when I watch a show that is consistently, trying to insinuate that these people have bad intentions or are, I want to see facts, and I make decisions based on facts, not rumors and conjecture. And when I started to see that, that's when I really started to, distance myself. And, I saw, Scott on there calling me a bimbo, and, that's just fine. I actually can handle, that's the least of my worries. But, I'm kind of thinking, all right, Scott, I respectfully disagree. And I don't think a bimbo would be able to pull herself out of poverty and be able to fund her own campaign herself.
Yeah, going back to your 1,300 employees, I'm just kind of mind boggled that, and I mean this in no disrespect whatsoever, but because I don't obviously understand your business fully, but as a janitorial business, to have 1,300 employees, that's incredible, no matter what industry it is. And so you're right. No bimbo, no person that is not competent is not going to be able to do something like that. And the fact that you and your husband did it as a team from the ground up is huge. He would not understand that, though. We've kind of talked about this on the show previously about, where is he getting his funding? There's other things that we've kind of discovered that we'll probably get into. I would think soon, right, guys? We're probably going to bust that case open soon.
Well, I think that, when you start questioning other people, you have to be willing to be an open book yourself. So I hope Scott's willing to answer many hard questions pertaining to his own financial situations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's, you don't have an obligation to go if you're a candidate. Like, if I'm a conservative candidate, am I going to go do a show with Rachel Maddow or some other leftist loony on MSNBC? No, I'm going to go to
engage with fake news, and that's what I've deemed it at this point in time.
Yeah,
fake news. It's conjecture. It is like a 9 a.m. remember the talk shows in the 90s, like a Jerry Springer show where people are just in there talking a lot of trash about people, and it's just chaos. And I will not engage with that chaos. That is what that show has turned out to be. It's really unfortunate because I'm sure at one time he was great at what he did, and that ship has sailed. And thankfully, we have this great media outlet. You guys are doing a great job. You're factual, you stick to the facts, and you don't defame people when you disagree, and that's a great thing. So I am very proud to be on this show, and I only see that you guys are going to gain a lot of traction and momentum with many other candidates more important than I, and I see that coming down the pipe.
Thank you.
Well, we appreciate the confidence and the kind words.
Yeah, we
Wezlynn.
try, definitely. We're not trying to be too pretty and flashy. We're trying to be factual and get the facts out to the people. That's the mission.
Yes, this is not about emotion. This is about facts and doing the right thing at the right time. And now more than ever, we need people doing the right thing at the right time. And that's why you guys are here. And it's also why I'm here. And that's also why I think that, I am at the front runner in this race, because I think people recognize that I am very straightforward. There's no fluff with me. I'm the only one in this race raising children in this climate, making sure that I am sending my kids off to school in a public environment where they can stand strong in who they are. It is a very hard thing to do with the cultural pressures on our children today. And, that alone, building that strength in your children, that is a job that is a very serious, important job to do. And if I can do that at home with my children, you bet I can do it in the legislature.
Yeah. Now, one thing I'm curious to know, Wezlynn, when you're talking about a state rep race, and which has a little bit longer. I mean, you announced this particular campaign went back in like July. Was it July or June, May?
I think so. Something
Yeah.
like that.
So it goes on a little bit longer than if you were running for school board or something like that. Now, as you get out into the community and you're campaigning, do the issues, or I guess the importance of the issues, do they kind of stay the same typically? Or do you find that you're adding additional things to the platform or tweaking what your plan of attack will be when you get elected, just based on conversations that you have with more and more folks? Like, can you talk a little bit about that experience out on the campaign trail?
Yeah, I mean, the messaging is a lot different. Well, it feels different for me from last time to this time. Property tax was an issue, but it wasn't like it is right now. Now, I've always known it was an issue, and I've always talked about it because I pay it. But this time, I feel that everybody's very aware of what the issues are. It's property tax, it's affordability, right? It is our school systems, because our property taxes are going to the schools. It is security, safety, public safety, and it is Medicaid fraud and the fraud that we're seeing within our systems and the abuse, the need to gut waste and fraud out of our system. I mean, I think that that's really what it boils down to. And it's really about being a very strong, staunch steward of taxpayer dollars. I think that, when you run a school board race, when you hear a conservative run, you hear, we need to get back to the basics, ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. That is what we need in the legislature with our budget. Medicaid is half the budget, but what is the fraud in there? What is the waste in there? What do we need to tighten the seatbelt? I mean, there's so much that has to be gutted from that alone to free up funds for other things that could be public safety related, infrastructure related, fund our school systems at the state level, which needs to happen. And I will be a champion of that, because if this citizens driven abolishment for property taxes does not go through, we better have strong people in the state legislature who will advocate and fight to ensure that the state takes on school funding. And that's not only tightening a seat, that's eliminating fraud, eliminating waste, doging systems, getting rid of philanthropy, sweetheart deals, special interest group handouts, corporate welfare, so that we can wrap our arms around that. And that is what we need. We need somebody that actually has lived this, who understands it. I'm the only person in this race who has ever stood in front of a school board to testify on behalf of their children, push back on curriculum, to say, hey, you want this levy passed, but you got 70% of my property taxes. What's going on? Show me the administrative bloat, right? We need people in there who have had their businesses strangled by regulation. I've experienced that. Only candidate in this race that's experienced that. We need people in there with real life experience who has not spent their career as a wheel in government. My opponents, great men. They really are really great, wonderful men. However, I will say their career has been centered around understanding the system within the system downtown. Could we install them tomorrow and they know how it works? You bet your bottom dollar. Yeah, because they've been down there working within the system because their career has been in government. But what we need this day and age right now is someone who has a track record of being on the outside and effectively changing it as an outsider. And I've done that at the state level with a statewide association that I built from scratch that started with 3 people. And I've done that on many policy items, whether it was to kill a bill or get an amendment through the budget bill. And I did it as an outsider. We need someone who knows how to go in there, work within the system with the mind of an outsider. I'm the only person in this race that can do that.
It's going to take a lot of that across the state of Ohio at all levels of government. I mean, they need to cut spending. If you take the state budget and you look at the exponential growth over the past 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, it's ridiculous. And the age of big government, conservatives want to come out here and say, oh, we're against big government and we're for fiscal responsibility and we're for this and that and the other. And then nothing changes. They do the same shit that the damn Democrats do, maybe to a slightly lesser extent with all this big government spending. No, it's not sustainable. It's time to go in there and take a frickin' hatchet to it and get rid of this welfare system, put people back out there, make the state open for business, make them work, and everybody will be better off. Because the way we're going now is just, it's not sustainable, and it's the path to continued decline. And so I hope we get a whole lot of Wezlynn Davises that take over the state of Ohio and actually implement some changes, because I can say that I have been ranting about property taxes and those sorts of issues for years, and because this isn't just within the past year or two. I mean, if you take out those charts, and I encourage everybody to do it, if you are one of the fortunate individuals that has a property tax liability, go on your local county auditor's website, search your property address, and it'll have historic information as to what your property tax liability has been over the past. I think Marion County goes back 5 years. You can get additional data from the auditor's office itself, but chart it out. You'll see 100% increase in 10 years or what have you. I mean, that is absolutely ridiculous.
Oh, yeah. I
Have
was
your
with a
wages?
woman the other day, she's on a fixed income and she's a single mother, and her property taxes went up $1,100. She doesn't know how she's going to manage that. You know,
Yeah.
and we have a responsibility in this state. The representatives are not there to socialize and you know, increase their social status. You are there to work. You are there to deliver. You are there to convince your colleagues of the better way. And you know, you can't be someone's we cannot have people installed down there who just end up being some power broker's tool. That's what we cannot have. And, you know, it takes a lot of collaboration. I mean, I'm really proud over the past 10 years. You know, I know that I come across very strong, but, you know, I also am a great negotiator. And over the years, I've sat in interested party meetings and hammered out legislation where all parties walked away relatively satisfied. And, you know, if you remove the emotion out of it and the personal attacks, and that's what we can't have down there. We have to build relationships. We have to build a culture within the Republican Party that is unified down there, that eliminates ego and status, and it's about delivering results to the people who are footing the bill. And that is what needs to happen.
These rhinos need to go. Need to go.
Pursue that.
Get rid of these damn establishment Republican name only pieces of shit. They got to get out. Get out.
Cody,
Route them out. And
that's so hilarious you mentioned the establishment. I was literally just going to mention that and ask Wes, you know, from your previous advocacy tenure, how deeply entrenched is the establishment here in Ohio? I mean, we talk about it at the national level. Are we working with a big beast here, or is this just a few weak men? They try to control things, but then they have powerhouses like you that come in and just knock over the dominoes.
You know, I really don't know. I'll be honest. I don't know how to answer that question. I think a lot of things have to do with how campaigns are financed and, you know, how they're funded. I mean, I think there's a lot of people out there who, you know, if you're reliant on union money, you're going to vote pro-union. That is why I funded my own campaign, because I will be, listen, I'm a one state representative of 99. Okay. We're in a Republican majority. So I think it's like 66. I forget the exact number. I am one person, but one thing I can tell you is I will always be able to look myself in the mirror, because I will never have to take a dime and then feel beholden to somebody, number one. Number two, I've built businesses and have been in sales essentially my whole life, okay? I am very, very great at going downtown and getting buy-in. You know, there was a time when the Republican and getting buy-in and turning out results, because when I was working for the trade schools, this was back before even Trump was elected, okay? This whole trade school boom and support for trade schools, that hasn't always been a thing. That is recent in my experience. And when I would go downtown and fight for trade schools and trade school policy, the Republicans were not on my side. I had to sell them the idea that they needed to not do what they were about to do, which on the headliner for a Republican looked real great. But to convince the Republican legislature to comb through the nuance, to look at the collateral damage, look past the headliner that would be in the paper that would sound really conservative, and really see if the words that, you know, they always say, what's the term, devil's in the details, to ensure that the intent actually is what would translate in real life. That is why Senate Majority Whip George Lang is one of my most favorite people in the state of Ohio. In the legislature, he has been a mentor to me, and he has, you know, has my full respect, and I have his full endorsement, because he was one of those Republican, very conservative Republicans that would take time to look past the nice, pretty headliner and comb through the words on the page, put the fine print under a magnifying glass, and really look at the collateral damage and see what that policy would actually do in real time, in real life. That is the legislator that I will be. I'm a fine print person. Not many people know this about me. I'm a creative writer on the side, just personal, my own little hobby. Some people paint, some people play guitar. I'm a writer. Words matter to me. And I'll always be that person combing through the fine print and never taking the headliner at face value. I do not believe legislators have the right to be briefed. You have to read, you have to dig into the nuance, and you have to understand. I'm not going to be an expert in anything. I'm an expert in very, very few things. But what I am dedicated to doing is building a kitchen cabinet within this district. I will be seeking out experts who live here, not the lobbyists that walk into my office. Sure, they're going to come in and give me, their side of the story, but they are hired guns, my friends. They are hired guns. I will be listening to what they have to say, sure, but you bet your bottom dollar, I will be finding the expert in our district who leans on me to vote the right way. And I will be seeking this out, building a kitchen cabinet within our district and making sure that the voice within the district is heard, not the lobbyist. And that is what I'm dedicated to, and that's how I will operate.
It's the only way to do it.
I agree.
And you talk about your boy, George Lang. Was he sore with what I did to him at your kickoff event in Marion?
Oh, about property tax?
No, when he was giving a speech, everybody.
Oh no,
Wezlynn had a campaign kickoff event, which I attended. I don't know, a month and a half ago, whenever it was. And State Senator George Lang was giving a speech, and he, as politicians do, they want to be complimentary to people. And he said he was kind of glazing Mike DeWine a little bit. So I was like, DeWine,
but not a policymaker.
I said it really loud, and people started like cheering me and like laughing and stuff. They loved it. And he's like, oh, well, you got to, DeWine's not that bad. I'm like, yes, DeWine is horrible. No, we don't want to hear anything positive about Mike DeWine. Get him out. Yeah. You can't leave soon enough.
He wasn't salty about that. In fact, he agrees with you completely, and I know that for a fact. He likes Governor DeWine as a person, but not a policymaker. And I've heard him be very, very clear about that in the past. So no, I mean, he's right there with you. He was probably going to say it a little nicer, but that's just his way. But he has made it very clear on many occasions that as a policymaker, and especially during COVID, that it was just, it was the worst leadership, very damaging, and it's taken years. It'll take years. We're not done recovering from that. I know our children aren't.
Absolutely.
We're not.
And that's why also Amy Acton cannot be governor. Cannot be.
Here.
That's the best that they can come up with. Or is it literally where they're just trying to rub salt in a wound by jamming this lunatic Dr. Quackton down our throats?
I think that's the only person that they could come up with that maybe has name ID that can, compete with Vivek. You got to have name ID to be governor because people aren't always paying attention. And I don't know any Democrat out there that I probably can. I can't think of one other than her that I, off the top of my head, the name ID is just there. And that was because she was, in my eyes, a tyrant, but and destroyed people's lives. But that's just me.
I personally think the Democrat Party in Ohio is on the ropes. I mean, they have been for several years now, and it just seems like it keeps getting worse.
I would agree with that. I think that they're losing their base. I mean, I have friends who were Democrats who are now Republicans and say to me, I didn't leave the party left me. And that is what I hear all the time. I mean, I think your moderate JFK Democrat is considered a right-wing person these days.
Right.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. If you're not
And you
flying the rainbow flag and
welcome on
wanting
in.
to chop your son's genitalia off,
No
and
one's having it.
yeah, then you're not accepted in the modern day Democrat Party. So,
Operation Destroy the Nuclear Family is falling flat on its face.
Hmm. Right.
yeah. So lots of things going on in the campaign in the 86th district. So what do we have to look forward to moving forward here?
Well, you know, you mean in my race?
In your campaign, yes.
In my campaign, you know, I am out and about. You'll see me at events. You'll see me, more importantly, at the doors. I love, if you look at my Facebook, you'll see that my campaign is about people and engaging with people. It's people over politics. You know, we can call ourselves Republican and everything, but values are values. And my values are rooted in keeping money in your pockets, keeping government out of your life, keeping government off your children. You can call that Republican. Sure. I mean, I consider myself a conservative Republican because it seems to me that's what the Democrats hate, is everything that I believe in. So if that makes me a conservative Republican, then so be it. I believe in local government. I believe in local control. I believe in protecting our seniors. You'll see a post I made about my 95-year-old grandmother who I adore. She was my earth angel growing up. She spoke life into me. And, you know, I see what's going on with fraud and waste and Medicaid. And I think about all those all of the elderly out there that don't have advocates like I am for my grandmother, who are just, you know, they're just in the system. And our seniors cannot be line items, is what I said. They are not line items in a budget. We do not revere our seniors as we should.
Yeah.
I'm on a mission to change that. When I was 14 years old, so you guys know my dad died when I was 1, and I grew up with a stepdad, and you know, but never really felt really, you know, as a little girl, it was my grandfather who was my father. So it was really like I lost 2 fathers, because he died when I was 14 and I was attached to his hip. And I used to have I would get dropped off at the arbors, and every single day until the day he died. He was in there for, I think, 1.5 years or something. And I would go with him. He had a stroke, and I thought I could teach him to talk again because he lost his speech. And, you know, that didn't happen. But I would walk in there and I saw all of these folks with a history and life and dignity and a legacy, and they're just sitting there. And these workers in there, I mean, I assume, because this is my personality type, they're doing the best they can. They're working with what they have, but, you know, they only have so much funding, you know, it's coming from the state or whatever. And, you know, you see them just withering away with no human connection. And there's not a lot of dignity in that. And that can't happen in our state. In what happened during COVID with all of the elderly that passed away alone, you want to talk about a lioness? I mean, my grandparents, I wouldn't be the person I am today without them. And there's something in me that stirs. If I'm in office, I cannot let this go on. Our seniors need a fighter, and I'm prepared to be that. So I watched all these, you know, grandmas and papas in there just, you know, go days without any interaction and just sitting in a bed, and it broke my heart. I started visiting with them. And I think that's why when I was 19 years old, I got a job as an activities assistant in a nursing home in the Alzheimer's unit. And I didn't last too long because it was really, really heartbreaking, actually. But I have a heart for our seniors that is really kind of hard to put into words. So, you know, I want them to know that I will be fighting for them like they've never seen before.
I got a final question for you, Wezlynn, and I know Cody's going to bring it home for us because we got to respect your time. But what can we expect on day one? Is there something in your mind that is like, hey, on day one, this is what I want to push?
Oh, I mean, I'm immediately going to be pushing for, if this abolishment doesn't go through, I'm going to be fighting for property tax reform on a level you've never seen. Because first of all, I know some of us can kind of manage, but everybody's working hard enough already. What are we saying? Okay, mom and dad, go get a second job and then try and figure out childcare, and then you see your kids 1 hour a day. That can't happen. Second, we're pushing our seniors. We're out of their homes. We're swallowing up their, the state is taking their savings, and maybe they want to leave a little money to their children or grandchildren. That's being taken. It's property tax, 100%, because that equates to the ability to thrive and live and build a legacy and general wealth for your children and your children's children. So that's right out of the gate, has got to be dealt with. And, then it's the fraud and the waste in the budget, cutting costs, and, dealing with Medicaid. I mean, those are the top two right out of the gate.
Yeah.
I do want to say this, because you just judged. Also, my email and my contact information is on every single, my website, my Facebook page, and I am actively building a policy list. And I've gotten a lot of great ideas, things that people have experienced. Hey, I run this business. My business does this. I encountered this. This shouldn't happen this way. People are sending me ideas, and I am archiving this and cataloging it, really, so that I can start to build something and make sure that I am checking back. And I will use this as a way to reach back out to the constituency, but then find bills that have legs to ensure that when I have opportunities to get an amendment into a bill and get this policy item, line item out of our district into a bill, I will. I've been really successful at that in the past with representing trade schools and small businesses and trades. And that is something that I plan to do because, frankly, I don't need credit. I don't need a bill that said Wezlynn Davis's bill and here's the headliner and blah, blah. All I care about is getting the words in the bill and getting it passed. I don't care how it gets done, as long as it happens and I can look my voter in the face and say, we did it. We did it. And, that's all I care about.
Yeah, because the most important issue, I think, to most people in the state of Ohio is the skyrocketing property taxes. And there have been some measures, relief measures, some that have been taken here recently in the state house, but they're not enough.
It's not enough.
So there's a lot of work that's going to be coming ahead in this year, next year. So we have to have people in there who are genuinely motivated to do what is right. And honestly, I think it needs to be a foundational level of reform. It cannot be this little taking a scalpel and cutting this here and
I
here.
couldn't
and
agree
stuff.
more, Cody.
Right. You gotta
are
take a freaking chainsaw to it, not a scalpel, and rebuild everything from the ground up, essentially. And like you said, having the waste, fraud, and abuse. I mean, hell, this Republican in name only for the large part, and you can check it out. Go on TPUSA, that's Turning Point USA's scorecard, and you can go by states. You can go in Ohio, you can look up all your legislators in the House of Representatives or in the state Senate, and you can see how they vote on particular pieces of legislation. And then TPUSA will say which is a conservative nonprofit. Charlie Kirk, think about Charlie Kirk, folks. Remember him. But that was his organization, and they'll put what their recommendation was on the vote and what that particular legislator voted, and then they'll give them a score. So you can say, "Oh, how conservative are these people according to TPUSA?" And one of the bills that under I think last year that was passed, overwhelmingly passed, was this relief for recent African immigrants into Ohio. It was all these welfare programs and shit like that for a bunch of African immigrants that they're bringing into. How is that Ohio first? How is that America first? What is this crap? These are Republicans. And then DeWine is the one that opened the state up in 2000. What was it? 2014 that he signed that. No, it was 19. He signed that letter saying, "Oh, Ohio is welcoming to all these, so we'll take refugee resettlement." And then they dumped what 50,000 of them or something like that into Springfield in Clark County.
Mhm.
You know, give me a break. That's
No,
why
he-
DeWine is a scumbag, traitorous piece of crap, not only for COVID, but that kind of stuff. And the Republicans need to realize that you have to elect people that are genuine conservatives, people who come from the real world, and that will go there and will act on your interests, not on the lobbyists, not on some corporate bureaucrat, you know, piece of crap. You got to have people that are for me and you, regular working class people with red blood in their veins, these heritage Americans, we matter too. And it's time that we demand representation because they take our money, but they sure as hell don't do shit for us the rest of the time.
And we need people in there who have
Final
managed
thoughts,
their own
Wezlynn.
households
I
before they
ranted
try to
there,
manage other people's households. You know what I mean? Government's no place for managing other people's households, but we certainly need people in there who have run their own life successfully first before we try to throw them in there to root out fraud and waste. Because if you haven't rooted out waste in your own budget, in your own household, how are you going to do it for the state? And you're not wrong. I'm with you. Ohio first, Ohio families first. And that's the way it should be.
Well, we wish you the very best of luck as you continue along the campaign trail. I apologize there for getting a little bit hot under the collar, but I'm telling you,
I'm no stranger to a passionate, commentary. So it doesn't bother me any.
And people, they need to be. You need to pay attention to this stuff because then it just bites in the ass when you say, "Good Lord, I'm paying $1,000 more in my property taxes than I was a couple years ago," or whatever. And
well, that's why people are so frustrated with school funding too, and property taxes funding schools at this local level, because we're not even getting the grade cards that you would expect for the amount of money that you're paying. Enrollment is lower than ever. The proficiency in math and science and reading is lower than it's ever been. So people are going, okay, well, we've been giving you this for a really long time, but what are we seeing in return? And I think that's why this citizens-driven abolishment has such momentum, because people are like, yes, it's going to turn everything upside down. Very difficult on the local level, police and fire. I am so pro police and fire, but at this point, people are actually willing to say, well, we'll just see what happens, because they feel that they have to force the hand of the legislature for them to do anything meaningful. And that is where people are today. So it is a statewide call of action. And that is why it is critical we have the right people. If this goes through, that we have the right people in these seats who run their own households, for one, and have a life experience and know how to stand up and stand against corporations, mega corporations, and lobbyists, so that you can't be, you know, the tool of the power brokers down there. And you know, I think that I am a people first candidate. I'm a family first candidate, and I think that now, thank you, Scott Spears. Now everybody knows also that I can't be bought, and I'm very proud of it.
Amen. And it's Jesus entering the temple, flipping tables over, the money changers, taking cat of nine tails and whacking people. That's what we need. That's what we need, is that sort of action in the state house. So if you
That's
commit to
exactly
doing
it.
that, Wezlynn, then we commit to supporting you.
And I appreciate that, because I'll tell you what, I am not afraid of anyone. I'm not afraid of the attacks. I am walking, you know, I have a very strong relationship with Jesus Christ, who is my Savior. And when I see hypocrisy and I see, you know, fraud and defaming, I know that I'm protected. I know, just like any child of God who has Jesus Christ as their personal Lord and Savior, I'm highly favored and anointed. And I know that He opens, when one door closes, another one opens. And I want our constituency to know, and I know there's a lot of believers out there just like me, do not lose hope. Our Father in heaven is controlling everything, and He is installing the unlikely person. You know, I heard a rumor out there the other day, oh, well, she only has a GED. That's exactly who Jesus would install to take a position like this, the unlikely one. And that is, you know, what I am going up against, is the person that doesn't have the, you know, the Yale, you know, Harvard, you know, the 4-year degree, or, you know, I don't know, the elitist background to be rubbing elbows in all these places downtown. And frankly, I don't want to be there. I want to be in our district with the people, fighting for what's right, and cracking that whip where I can. So, you know, forgive me for getting on my soapbox there, but, you know, I am not afraid of the attacks that can come my way, because I know that my heart is in the right place. And as far as my own personal loan to myself, I'm not worried about it, because I know, and I prayed very deeply about that. I know, you know, God is my North Star, and he sets my footsteps to where they need to go, nobody else.
Amen. Well, Wezlynn, we greatly appreciate you joining us here again on the Watchmen's Report. It's always a pleasure to hear about your campaign, what's going on, and I'm sure you'll be on again here in the not too distant future. We'll look forward to that evening. And for Jason Foreman, for Robert Land, Wezlynn Davis, I'm Cody Higley, and this has been the Watchmen's Report. So remember, folks, a watchman is always vigilant. Have a good night.
Have a great night.
Have a good
you
night,
guys.
guys. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Good night, Marion.
Sound the alarm! To arms! They are here!